Would you rather kill an innocent person and then immediately forget about it, or not kill the innocent person, but live the rest of your life thinking that you had?
Yeah, the first one.
You'd rather kill and forget.
Yeah.
So that is a straightforwardly unaltruistic behavior, and so that requires no explanation. You're acting in self-interest. A lot of people say, no, I'd rather do the second. I'd rather do the second. It's more moral, you know? The sort of morally upstanding people, they say, not that you're not morally upstanding, you know what I mean? They'll say, no, I'd rather do the second. But even then, I think it's because in the moment of making the decision, you'd be acting in your own interest, in that you would be disgraced with yourself, even if just temporarily. And by the way, people can also misjudge. People can get it wrong. Like, it might actually be better for me to kill them and forget, but I decide that I want to do the second one because I mistakenly think that it's better for me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But it's still the motivation is at least some sense self-serving. And people are going to say, no, you're just being cynical. This is the problem with atheistic morality. You have to understand, I really do care for other people. But listen to what you're saying. I really care for other people. You know, if I were to put bubble wrap on a vase that I'm transporting because I don't want it to break, you say, why do you do that? And I say, because I really care about this vase. What I'm saying there is I don't want it to break because I'd be upset. And when I say, well, I really care about this person, what am I saying? I don't want them to come to harm because it would harm me. A definition of friendship and love and care for another person is taking suffering in their suffering. Think about a man a firefighter who runs into a burning building and saves a child and comes outside, and the news media go up to him and say, oh, how did you find the bravery to go in and save that child? And the firefighter says, I couldn't have lived with myself if I didn't do that. I couldn't have lived with myself. You know, I just had to. People think of him as more heroic for saying that. They think that's laudable. They say, well, how virtuous that he said that he couldn't live with himself if he didn't go and save that child. But what's he saying there? He's saying, I did it because otherwise I would have suffered. I did it for my sake.
I love that. And that's why I think a lot of that is why I am suspicious of morally upstanding people. And I think, or people who I think it's people who don't have that understanding about themselves, that everything they do is for a selfish reason. And I think there's a lot of people who do have that feeling, who do realize that. And that is a lot of the culture wars, in my opinion, that it comes down to that. People who think they are doing things for virtuous causes, and I don't trust it. And I think we as a people don't trust it. I've got this book coming out in a few months about the psychology of secrecy. And one of the main takeaways, people should still read the book, but one of the main takeaways is we think we tell our secrets to polite people. There are several other traits as well, but we think I'm someone who tells my secrets to polite people. And the opposite is obviously true. We don't trust polite people with our secrets. And that's because a polite person would, depending on the society and time, they would have signed up to, they'd have been a card-carrying member of the Stasi. They would have been a Nazi. They would have been all of those things because it was polite in those times. And they would have considered those actions to be morally upstanding. And I think they wouldn't have questioned them because that's a very powerful feeling. So that's why I instantly said, look, I don't really value, I would kill I mean, I don't know how to kill someone, but in the theoretical whatever, I wouldn't want to get my hands dirty, of course. I know I would, because I know that long term, I'm going to feel significantly better. And I don't need to prove anything to this particular self that's going to last for a few days till I've killed the person. And then I'm in the next bit because I don't remember it anymore.
So you'd rather an innocent person die for your sake?
It's not nice. I'm going to say yes. Yes, but I don't want people listening to go, oh my God, he's heartless. It's like, I think it would be awful. But I ask people this all the time who think that they would go with the second one. And so I say a similar thing. I say, would you, and I think this is maybe more painful to think about. So I say, would you rather somebody sort of slowly cuts your legs off? It's going to be very painful, and then you're not going to have legs for the rest of your life. Or, and it's not your fault, but there's a tsunami in a far-flung part of the world somewhere where 100 people die. And, and then you start changing the numbers and see if that makes any difference. And I think most people, as long as they didn't, especially if they didn't have to live with the guilt of it, I don't know. I don't want to live the rest of my life.
The important thing as well is to distinguish between what you would and what you should do. If you believe there's such a thing as objective ethics, there's probably going to be a should question here, like you should do this. And usually a should is most evident to you when it's something that, at least crudely, you don't feel like you want to do. There's a higher order reason to do. In this case, it might be because it's subjectively the right thing to do. But if you ask people what they would do, I think people would, if being honest, be much more likely to say they would than that they should, if you know what I mean.
What would you do? your first one. What was it? Kill an innocent man
Right.
and not remember it,
Yeah.
or feel for the rest of your life that you had done it?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I've asked this question so many times that I've tried to come up with ideas of what one should do, and for me, should is just an emotive expression, and so it's kind of, what do I feel most emotionally repelled by? And I think I feel more repelled by killing the person. But maybe that's like irrational, you know what I mean? Maybe I don't know. But on the question of what I would do, you kind of want to say, no, I would consign. It's almost like poetic. It's like something out of a tragedy, taking this bullet for somebody, saying, no, I'm going to live the rest of my life with this guilt so that this stranger can go on and live their life. And everybody kind of wants to be the hero in that circumstance. But would you actually? I honestly don't know. It's like asking me, would I run into that burning building to save that child? Like, yeah, of course I would. But would I? There's no way for me to know until I'm in that circumstance. I'd like to think that I would. Yeah. But I don't know.
I always feel like I would, but I know that I'm influenced by this weird feeling of invincibility in this particular circumstance, that I would run in and just come out with the child. If it meant I would definitely die and the kid would live, now we're talking about a different thing.
Yeah, that's also a different thing, yeah.
And also in your killing example, are you having to actually really do it, or are you just pushing a button and someone you don't know and have never met just disappears from the earth and you don't have to think about it?
But you can see why, if this is what ethics really is, just sort of how we emotionally feel about certain circumstances, people have invented these objectifying strategies to take us outside of our immediate emotional impulses, because it's obviously beneficial as a whole across a society for people to to save other people, to save more people, to sacrifice themselves, to sacrifice their legs for the lives of other people, that kind of thing. And so it's no surprise to me that people will listen to a conversation like this and think, this is not the way to do ethics. How can you even consider the possibility that might be the right thing to do? Bear in mind that we're not considering what would be the right thing to do, just what we would do in this circumstance. But that's the confusion people make, I think. I don't know. I mean, it's fascinating to think about, but it's also relatively scary because it tells you a lot about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, it depends how much value you attribute to what life is or anything like that, And I don't believe in an afterlife, and I don't like the idea of not being here anymore. Like, that's it. It's done when that happens.
Sure.
So it's very hard for me to understand. A lot of people say they would sacrifice their lives for their children. In fact, most people, I believe, say that. And it's so hard. It's so hard to even, I don't have children. It's so hard to even understand what that means. Because I think it was Sam Harris who said, and really made it clear that we often talk about when we're no longer here, as though we still are, like, oh, I'm dead then. So like now I'm alive from the years 1989 to 2050. And after that, I'm in a state of being dead. Whereas I think Sam Harris was saying, no, you're not in a state of anything. It's just nothing.
Yes.
That's really hard. And that's something I think, again, your morality is going to change slightly if you don't think of it in that way. You go, okay, it's all right. I'll be really happy with what I just did when I'm dead. And without thinking, I'm not saying an afterlife. I'm just saying people going, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll just be in the state of being dead then. I'll be happy with what I've done. And they're not thinking, where's it gone? As a prominent atheist yourself, do you stay up at night? Do you struggle to sleep?
I wouldn't say that it keeps me up at night. That might just be because I don't think about it all too much. I know that a lot of people struggle in the sense that they can't stop thinking about it. I suppose I've never been one of those people. I'm able to sort of put it out of my mind, although there have been times when I've thought about mortality to the extent that it does send that sort of shiver down your spine. But ultimately, no, I don't think that I'm scared of it, in part because I actually don't know. I mean, sure, I'm an atheist, but I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't know what happens. There are some grand mysteries about the way that consciousness works and where it is and what it's made of. I think that there are two mysteries of consciousness that push in opposite directions to each other. The mystery for the person who thinks that consciousness is sort of escapes the physical body and is not just tied up in the brain that stops working. The mystery for them is, why is it so connected to the brain? Why is it that, like, I can't affect my consciousness without affecting something in my brain. And if I prod my brain in a particular way, it also affects my consciousness. If you think about what the immaterialists about the mind say the mind is, that it's not made of matter. It's not spatial. It doesn't have extension, right? When you really think about it, if that's true, why the hell is it sort of located in our world in this brain? It would make no more sense for me to prod this brain and experience a consciousness change than for me to prod this microphone and experience a consciousness change, because the brain, the mind is not a physical thing. It's not actually the brain. So why is it that pushing this part of matter affects this immaterial thing that exists and transcends the material plane? That's a grand mystery, the interaction problem, they call it.
But our consciousness is affected when we get brain damage and things like that. Well, the kind of consciousness you experience is completely altered by a brain injury.
Exactly, which is the mystery, is that for the person who wants to say that the mind is immaterial, you have to say, well, then why the hell is it that it's just seemingly connected to the brain? It's totally beholden to the brain. Does that not tell us that consciousness just is the brain?
And when the brain's dead,
there goes consciousness. So there's the mystery for the person who says that consciousness is more than the body and will escape. However, if you do say that consciousness is actually just the brain, and it just goes when you go, there are mysteries in the opposite direction. And the biggest one of these, I think, is something like and I've talked about this on my own podcast with Philip Goff, and then more recently with Josh Rasmussen. Think about redness, for example. There are some red things in this room. There's a red star over there.
Yeah.
That redness exists in that, like, this experience of red that you're having is that you know what red looks like. It's a thing. It's there. You can perceive it. But redness isn't a property of the object itself. If there were no one to perceive it, it wouldn't be red. It would have the wavelengths that our brains associate with redness and turn into the red experience, but there wouldn't be like redness permeating the universe in the same way. It would just be electromagnetic waves, in the same way that there's ultraviolet light streaming through this room. We can't see it. It's not like perceptible. Redness would only, like, in terms of its sort of perceptible qualities, only exists insofar as a person can see it. I don't know if you agree with that, but do you see what I'm saying?
I half agree with it.
Like,
it's still there, but we have to interpret it.
Yeah, red. When I say redness, I'm not talking about the electromagnetic wave that causes the experience of redness. I'm talking about the experience of redness.
Subjective experience.
You can close your eyes and picture redness, right?
Yes.
You can picture it in your head.
Yeah.
That's not caused by any electromagnetic wave, whatever. That's just in here. But you can still see that redness. You know what it looks like. It's there in your head, right? The problem is that if redness is in your head, which it is at least in the circumstance when you close your eyes and picture it, but also I would say when wavelengths hit your eye and your brain just transforms it into the red experience, it definitely exists. You can see it. But if it's just in your brain, where the hell is it? I can cut open your brain with a knife. I will never find redness in your brain. I'll find the neurons and the electromagnetic, or the sort of atomic collisions and the brain activity associated with the experience of redness. But I won't find redness in your brain. Doesn't matter where I look, doesn't matter how much I cut, doesn't matter how many things I peel back. I'm never going to find redness in your brain. But close your eyes and there it is. So where is it? Where is the redness? Where does it exist?
Where's the mind?
That is a bemusing mystery, I think, if you spend enough time really thinking about it. Because people want to say, but red is just, your brain's reaction to electromagnetic waves. Like, fine, but that you've just described what causes it, what makes it up. But the actual product, the redness that you see when you close your eyes, where the hell is that? Where is it? And if you say it's in your brain, why can't I cut open your brain and find it? And so this is a great mystery in the other direction for people who say, no, consciousness is just the brain, it's just physical matter. Well, then where is redness? Yeah. It's not in the object over there. It's not in my brain because I can't cut it open and find it. So it must be, well, perhaps immaterial. And so, okay, in other words, I'm a bit of an agnostic about what the brain is, what consciousness is. Now, I must say I'm a few steps away from believing that consciousness will be put inside of a new body that will be resurrected in the New Jerusalem. But that's not to say that I'm totally ruling out the idea that there's some kind of continuity of experience after, the decline of a physical body. I don't think that will happen. I don't believe that will happen. But because I'm not firmly convinced that it won't, maybe that's what's enough to keep me from being totally scared of it.